Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday live stream. Today is Sunday, December 28th. My name is Angela. How's it going? I'm a front-end developer and software engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota. And if you're new here, welcome. So happy to have you. Looks like one of the mods is here, Monique Robinson, Triggering Nightbot. Welcome, Monique. Happy to have you. Monique and I have been chatting a little bit via DM on Instagram the last couple of days. She's always checking in on me, which I appreciate. So here's what normally I stream Saturday and Sunday. Friday at around lunchtime, my internet went out, which where I currently live, I've lived here for several years. That's not normal here. Our internet is generally very stable. It has happened like one other time where I think it went out for almost a full day. This time it wasn't a full day. It ended up being about 15 hours or so. And it was a combination them and a combination me. It was a little bit of both of us. So they, being CenturyLink, which is now Quantum Fiber, they got their act together on their end, and then I had to go and get a new router because this little beauty right here was 7.5 years old. Yes, I knew that I should have upgraded a long time ago, but it just kept working, so I guess I couldn't be bothered. And now I am the proud owner of something called, well, it's right here behind me. You can kind of see this little pod. And I have 3 of these now in my home. I think it's the TP-Link Deco Mesh. So there's that. So we are fully wired and the connection is better than ever. And actually, I mean, I have a lot of devices. I've got an iPhone, an iPad, an iMac, a MacBook Pro, 2 TVs. Do I have anything else? For one person, I have a lot of devices. Oh, there's a printer on the network. Anyways, so for the number of devices that I have and for how old this old router was, we were actually hanging on for a long time. So, but my iPhone was constantly dropping the Wi-Fi. So it was a pain in the butt. I was constantly having to reconnect my iPhone to Wi-Fi. And so far now it's been, well, it hasn't quite been 24 hours, but so far I have not had to reconnect to Wi-Fi at all. Let's see here. Which is just such a treat. Yeah, it's still connected and better than ever. It's actually slightly better. So I'm very happy about that. So it was worth it. It wasn't super expensive. It was about $100. I got it at Target. It was easy to set up. So yeah, so I'm happy about that. Go Elmo Go is here. Welcome, Go Elmo Go. We love a good upgrade. Yes, we love a good upgrade. And here's the thing, it's been on my mind for a couple of years. Isn't that terrible that it's something I've been thinking about for a couple of years and I couldn't be bothered to do the upgrade until my internet actually went out? So I don't know. I guess that it just keeps, the thing is that it was working. Everything was working. So now we have a signal that is better than ever. We've got more security. That's, of course, always a good thing. Yeah, so here we are. So that's what happened yesterday. I hope you had a nice holiday. For those who celebrate, it was Christmas this past week. And it was unusually busy for me. My holidays aren't generally this busy. Our holidays in my family are very chill, very low key. But this one just felt a little more, I guess, I don't know. There was just a lot going on. And the last, I would say, week to 2 weeks, I was just all focused on Christmas and like all the shopping and the food prep and, you know, gifts. We are very modest gift givers in our family. The emphasis isn't on gifts, but we do exchange gifts. But we don't spend tons and tons of money. It's very modest, and I try to be very thoughtful. So I spend time really thinking about things that people will need and use. And I think I'm a good gift giver. So, but a lot of time went into that. So, I'm happy to be past the holidays now and getting back to normal. I took I feel like I took the entire month of December off. I mean, I was still streaming on the weekends for the most part, um, but I really stepped away from like YouTube and working on anything. And I needed that break. I had some personal business to take care of, and I am so glad that I decided to do that. But I'm also ready to get back to business and to get back to work. And just a heads up, I was thinking, let me see here. Let me find this. I was thinking about streaming next week on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So New Year's Eve is, well, I guess it's this week, is Wednesday. New Year's Day is Thursday. I feel like I have a little time to make up for. Also, my dishwasher is running and it is so noisy in the background. So I apologize for that. It should be over soon. I hope. It's been over an hour. It's old, it's noisy, and it takes a long time to get through a cycle. So I think it's almost done though. Anyways, I think I'm going to stream on Wednesday and Thursday this week, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. The normal time, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, both days. Mods, if you're able to come and hang out, of course. Oh, good. Malik says he can't hear the dishwasher on his end. That's good. Mods, if you're able to come hang out with me on Wednesday and Thursday this week, that's obviously amazing, but no pressure. I don't have any special content planned. I just want those to be some additional work time. I feel like I have a little time to make up for since I didn't stream yesterday, and I really want to like crank out this next project. I'm also thinking about in January doing a sprint, a week-long stream sprint. So maybe we could do I don't want to not stream on Saturday and Sunday because I really like that schedule, but I was thinking about doing we could call it like a 7-day sprint, right? So if I stick to the schedule on January 3rd and 4th and then stream every day through the 9th, just do a nice 7-day sprint. Wouldn't that be fun? I think that would be fun. I haven't done that before. I also feel like I am aware of the fact that when you take a step back from YouTube, you kind of have to reintroduce yourself to the algorithm, right? You have to kind of warm yourself back up to the algorithm. And I was thinking that a 7-day sprint would be just the ticket. So, mods, again, if you're able to come and hang out with me, that would be amazing. There's no pressure. And here's the thing, I do very much want it to be a work-related sprint where I'm like sort of busting through this project. But the point of streaming is also to sit and talk to the audience and talk, interact with people. So the sprint will be, I think in the last several weeks, I've started to get the hang of letting people know like, hey, this is dedicated work time, and now, hey, this is time where I'm going to sit and talk to the chat. That feels good. That's something that took me a while to kind of figure out. So I think the 7-day sprint would be a great opportunity to get warmed back up to the algorithm, get some work done, and also just sit and talk to people who may not normally find me on the weekends, but would be more likely to find me on a weekday. So good. Malik says it should be fun and informative. So we're going to do that next week. So we're going to do a 7-day sprint, which is going to be January 3rd through January 9th. Yay. I'm excited. I should be doing more of that. I should be doing more sprints. I mean, maybe we could do one sprint a month. It sounds like an excellent way to build my audience. What do you think? So, okay, good. So there's that. And here's what we're working on. if you don't know, this is something, the very first thing that I ever built was this thing called a simple responsive video gallery. Responsivevideogallery.com is the domain. I have everything linked down in the description. This was the first thing I ever built back in 2013. Before I even had a job as a developer, I was very much aware of the fact that I was able to learn. I was able to become a self-taught developer because of the generosity of other people freely sharing their work. There was this open source community, and I was very eager to give back to the open source community. I obviously still am, because everything I do on this channel is open source and freely available for anybody who wants to use it for any reason, personal or commercial. Okay, so that being said, it's quite old and we are rebuilding this video gallery. Everything here is jQuery because that's what we used back then. We used jQuery. These transitions and this modal or this lightbox is called FancyBox, and this is a jQuery plugin. We're going to rebuild all of this using vanilla JavaScript. And part of this project is not just to show this video gallery. Also, it goes without saying that one of the things that I learned very early on is that you can't just load a page with iframes, like embedded iframes from YouTube. The page load times would be wild. You absolutely can't do that. So this is very much on click loading this iframe, and that's how we want to handle that, but we don't need jQuery for that. We can do the vanilla JavaScript ourselves. Look at me. I was also using semantic HTML. Accessibility was not really something I was thinking about back then or even aware of, but I was definitely aware of semantic HTML, articles, figures, H2s, SEO hierarchy, and then providing instructions on what all of these things are and how to implement them. My plan for this is that we're going to build this as an open source demo, and then privately, or I guess behind the scenes, I am going to expand this gallery into multiple different iterations or layouts that would be a paid version, or a, what do we call it, a pro version. So, and I have lots of ideas for how, I have several things that I would like to do that follow this pattern in 2026, that I want to build live as an open source free version, and then behind the scenes I will expand that and iterate into multiple layouts, multiple versions that are paid or pro. That's my plan for 2026. But to always make sure that everything that I'm doing has an open source free version that people can watch and learn from. So that's that. That's what we're working on. And we have, of course, a GitHub repository for what we've started. Here's where we're at. Last weekend, we basically did all of the planning. We wrote all of the HTML. We even spent some time in Affinity Photo working on a mock-up and just sort of sketching out how we want this to look. So this is very general. This is a mock-up that's part of my collection, and we just took this and modified it a little bit so we could make sure that this looks, just to give us a roadmap. I'm pretty loosey-goosey when it comes to mockups. I would say that if you were a dev in an agency, you would probably want to pay a little closer attention to your mockups. I think the expectation would be that you were being a bit more exact or precise than I tend to be. It's like a recipe. I do this with recipes too, where I think of recipes and mockups as like they're guides. They're not like you don't have to do it exactly. It's just like a little guide. It's a little roadmap, right? Yeah. So we got all of the HTML written out here. We're also going to use Prism for syntax highlighting for the code snippets that we embed, and we got that working last week as well. Let's see here. Here it is. You can see here that we got Prism working. So let's go ahead. This is the best part, what we're going to start doing today. This is the best part because we are just going to start on CSS. That's the best part to me because I can do CSS in my sleep with both hands tied behind my back. So there's that. Okay. And I did a little bit of organizing after last weekend's stream. So I pushed all of this up to the GitHub repository. So I just made some folders and did a little organization. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Nothing too crazy. So let's get started on our header first. So this is what our header looks like right here. And then we have a mobile version as well. So this is what we want the drawer to look like. And I combined, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of fancy work here in the header because normally I would have the title, which is our H1, the navigation, which is a nav element, and then the social icons, which is also a nav element. I would have these in 3 separate containers. But because of how this drawer is structured, I have the nav and the social icons in their own container. So we're going to have to do a little bit of fancy work to get this looking right. But I think we can do it. I think we can do it. So we'll see. Normally I use Flexbox for headers. So let's just see how it goes. We'll just see how it goes. But I'm just throwing it out there that the structure is a little bit different from what I normally do. Let's see here. So here's our main nav. Here's the social nav. So we'll collapse these 2 containers. Here's the button. And this div, site title, and the buttons. Here's the button to close the menu on mobile. Here's the button to open the menu on mobile. We need to hide these. So let's just do that first because we don't need these on desktop. We only need them for mobile. Let's see here. And this is, this is let's hang on. I'm going to digress for just a moment here. This was, now that I think about it, I also did this last weekend. So I always pull in normalize. And I added prism to the bottom of our main style sheet. I don't want to link to 3 CSS files because that feels kind of obnoxious to me to have 3 HTTP requests. So I'm just going to, I think I'm going to make a copy of Prism and combine it with normalize. Just like that. And so I'm going to do this. I'll say Prism. I spell that right? Prism. Prism, yep. And then we'll do this. Normalize. There. So normalize and prism will come before our styles, but I think that's okay because I don't anticipate writing any CSS that would override code or pre. And if I do, we'll go ahead and deal with that when the time comes. And then we don't have to have Prism in our main style sheet because it just feels a little cluttered to me. So there we go. So we've got our root, some root colors, and I need to add our custom color palette, which I said I would do and I didn't. So I will do that before Wednesday, which is Wednesday and Thursday this week. That's fine. So we've got the body, the figure, the image, the SVGs. Okay. Sometimes I have to refresh myself. What did I do last time? What are we working on? So here's the header. Here's the navigation. Let's just go ahead. We can close this. We can close this. And now we can display none menu button. And that is perfectly fine. They can be display none on desktop. And then we also need to display none the site title. So let's just add that. So that cleans up now what we have got going on here. And what is this? That's not what I want. That is still, oh, we have to add, we didn't add any classes to this. Okay. So this is close button and menu button. All right, perfect. Now all of those are hidden. Let's get in a class for access hidden, which will hide these titles that go with our social media icons. I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to go find that in my GitHub because I can never remember it. We'll grab it here. Right here. That right here. And now all of those titles are hidden. It looks like, so here is the Gumroad link, and the Gumroad link is supposed to have an SVG. I forgot to put it in, so let's go ahead and add that. I thought I did. Here's our navigation. Yeah, I did. It's right here. Fill none stroke. Why is it not in there? Oh, it is. Why can't we see it? Oh, do we need to put in, okay, so it doesn't have any attributes. So I bet our SVGs just need a default stroke and a default fill. And then we can change those later in our CSS. So we'll do stroke, and we'll just say black, and then fill, we'll say black. There we go. Okay, good. Because that's what this is supposed to look like right here. Just like that. Okay, beautiful. So we hid our button, we hid both buttons, we hid the site title. So now we are distributing this H1. First, we are distributing the H1 and the nav. And then within the nav, we are distributing this UL and this div for the social navigation. Yeah. So let's start with, let's try Flexbox. We'll see if Flexbox works. If it doesn't, or if it's too fussy, we can try Grid. But for the header, I usually do Flexbox. Yeah, we'll see how it works. Okay, so header. Oh, do we also need? No, and we don't need a wrap. This does not this isn't constrained like the rest of the page. So I'm not going to worry about a wrap. We'll say display flex flow is row, no wrap. Justify content. I guess we'll say space. I usually do space between, which puts the first and the last at the edges. So yeah, that's probably what we want. And then align items, we'll do center. Okay, so actually this is fine. So far so good. Let's try space around. That'll put a little bit of space on the edges. Okay, so this is a good start. Now let's get these lined up because obviously these are all vertical. So in our navigation, we have the main nav and we have the social nav. So these can sort of, I think these can share for now. So those are UL. So we're going to say padding 0, margin 0. Whoops. Okay, hang on. This is like in my way. Okay. There we go. And then we're going to say list style type is none to remove those bullets. And then I think we'll also say display flex flow is row, no wrap, align items, center. Well, actually, I usually do justify content is also going to be center. And then we'll give these a gap of 1 rem just to get started. All right, perfect. And then now we need to do Flexbox on this nav container. So we'll go right here and we'll just say navigation, display flex flow, row, no wrap, justify content. I guess I'm going to do, for this, I am going to do space between. So the first item and the last item are right up against the edge. And then we'll do align items center. All right, so let's see what's happening. Let's put this down here. Okay, so here's the parent. We'll call this the parent, or maybe it's the grandparent. This is the grandparent container. And then we've got the H1, and then we've got the nav. So we probably, all we really, well, I mean, oh, and we need to hide this copyright too, because that's just for the mobile. So let's hide that as well. So we're going to hide the navigation copyright. Navigation copyright. Oh, hang on. Comma. Okay. So the best way to get this, I feel like the best, this doesn't need a width. I have to think about this. Do we just want to add a gap here? how do I get this to always be in the center? Do we add a width to this? Like maybe we give this a percentage of, like, so the width is like 66. I think that's too much. So is that it? Is it 50%? We just make sure that this is 50% and it stays in the center. I mean, we can try it. Should we just try it? We'll try it. We definitely are going to need to write more styles to see how that works, and then we can refine it later on. It seems like that would work. So let's just go ahead and do that. So this is this container right here, navigation. So we'll just go ahead and say width 50%. And then we're going to get a better sense for how well that holds up as we continue to style. That appears to work. So let's go ahead and just get some more stuff styled here. So we know that we have to change the font for the header, because right now on the body, our body font is Lustria, but the H1s, H2s, H3s, and the navigation all need to be Montserrat. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll just say H1, H2, H3, and we'll do H4, even though I don't think I'm going to have an H4. And we'll change this to Montserrat. And our weight is going to be, I'll do 400. Well, I'm going to do 500. We'll see how that looks. We can change it if we need to. Well, no, these are the H1s. So we're going to do, I'm going to do 700, which is like the normal. And then for our H1, the primary logo and the site title also needs to be Montserrat. So I'm just going to put that here in the header. So we'll say primary logo and site title. Or do we just want it to share here? Yeah, let's do that. Sharing is caring. Because, and then we can just change. It's okay if it gets this font weight. We can just change it down the line. That's fine. Okay. And then our navigation. Should we just put navigation in here too? One moment. All right. Okay. Yeah, I think we can do this for now, and then we can just change the font weight. Right? Yeah. And it seems like anything that's Montserrat is also text transform uppercase, and then we'll give this some letter spacing of 2 pixels. There we go. And then we can adjust the font weight as needed. So here's our navigation. We can actually do this here. We can say font weight. We'll go back to 400. I think 400 will be okay. We can switch that to 500 if it looks a little too weak. And then even though, well, I'm not going to do anything there. And we'll deal with the mobile styles when we get there. That's fine. And then let's style our links. And for our links, I really like to just do sort of a standard blue color for links. Let's go back and see. Let's grab this. Perfect. And we know that this is accessible for normal text AAA. We made that note. So we'll just use this blue for our links. So we'll say for links, color is going to be blue. Text transform, I think that I want the links by default to have an underline, and then when you hover, they don't have an underline. So let's borrow this, but we'll make it, we'll do the opposite. So the text decoration color is also going to be blue. Text decoration thickness 2 pixels. Text underline offset will be 3 pixels. And then we'll do a hover, active, and a focus. And the text decoration color will be the opposite. It will be a transparent. And then we want to transition that. So we'll do a transition, and the transition is the text decoration color. I like to transition at 300 milliseconds, ease in, out. You can use anything you want. That's just what I like. There we go. Now for the navigation though, the navigation is going to be black. So this is just for links, not specifically for navigation. So we're going to change the color only for the navigation. So we've got navigation. This is the navigation anchor. And we're going to say color is black. And then the navigation anchor hover active and focus, text decoration. Oh, whoops. Actually, we want, so it's going to be on the primary. So we don't need this. We just need it here. There we go. Oh. No transition. Why aren't you transitioning? Text decoration color. I feel like this should still transition, but it looks like it needs to be a little more specific. That's fine. No problem. There we go. And then let's also do an active class. Well, actually, no, we don't need an active because this is a one-page website. So this is going to scroll. And you know, now that I think about it, even though I want the links to be blue with an underline, I think for the navigation, I don't want this to have an underline, and I want the underline to be on hover. Because we don't need "you are here" navigation for a one-page website that scrolls. So we're just doing a little reverse engineering specific to the navigation. So that's cool. We can totally do that. All we have to do is change this to transparent by default. There we go. That's perfect. But anything else with the link, I don't know if I have anything else with the link. Yeah, we do. We have other things with the link. Will be blue by default. Perfect. Love it. And then let's style this SVG. All the SVGs are pretty big, so we might as well change the default style of the SVGs. And then just save ourselves from having to redo that. So right now it's 3 rems. Let's just do 1 point. Honestly, I feel like 1.1 1/3 tends to be a good size. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. And we'll do hover for this as well. Let's make sure that our H1 is the right size, because right now we have a lot of margin on the H1. We also have a lot of line height on the H1s. So let's just take off the line height. I usually do, every time. I usually do 1.25 line height for my titles. I think that'll be fine for this other stuff too. And then we need to take off the margin, the default margin. See, this is probably why I shouldn't combine those, but I think it'll be okay. Yeah, that's perfect. That's fine. Now let's put padding on the header. So for padding, I think we could do maybe 2 rems on the top and bottom, 0 on the, well, we are going to need something on the left and right. So there's our header. And then the H1, the primary logo, right now the size of that is, oops, the size of that is 2 M's, and we know that that needs to be 20 pixels because that's the size that we put in our mockup. We know that it needed to be that for everything to fit correctly. Even though I feel like this fits decently, I want it to be that size. So 20 divided by 16, 1.25 rems for the primary logo. Primary logo, font size 1.25 rems. Oh, I didn't save. There we go. I like it. And then let's get this figured out here. So I think what we should do for our SVGs, display inline block, let's add vertical align middle. That should fix this alignment. Pretty close. Hang on, we just need to, we can tweak this a little bit. So that's vertical align middle right now. I think we can get it a little better. That looks pretty good. Actually, text bottom is the best alignment. Text, yeah, we can do that. I don't really care about it for anything else, only for that. So, and everything else is pretty well aligned. Yeah, that all looks good to me. This line is extending in this space, which is fine. I could move the SVG out of the anchor element, but then the SVG wouldn't be part of the link. And I like that when you hover on the SVG, you're also hovering on the link. So I don't think I don't feel like this is a good thing to worry about right now. That doesn't seem productive to me right now. So let's see. I think that this just needs to be a little wider. This nav element needs to be a little bit wider. So 50% worked really, really well before we had this styled. I think this needs to just be a little, maybe a little bit wider, maybe 55%. And then how well does this, excuse me, hold up? Not very well. I mean, we're at 1240. Honestly, with the padding, hang on, we're gonna make this work. We are gonna make this work. So let's change this to 55%. And then for this, instead of space around, since we added padding, let's go back to space between, and then maybe we just give this 2 rems of padding all the way around, and that will help. And yeah, that's giving us a lot more. So let's I think we can make this a little wider. Oh, come on. Really? Sometimes, there we go. I mean, we can make this mobile sooner. It's really fine. Okay, I'm going to change this to 60%. And this is probably going to be something that I come back to. I don't want to spend all day fussing with this. The other thing that I want to do is on the navigation anchor links, we're going to make these white space no wrap. So if this does bump into it, that SVG doesn't wrap to the second line. So we'll just say white space no wrap. So there we go. And I don't think there's anything wrong with writing a media query to handle that navigation or to make that wider. But also we could just pop this into mobile early. I don't think there would be actually anything wrong with doing that at 1250. I think it would be perfectly fine. But let's keep going here on the header. The last thing I want to do on the header is let's make sure the header is sticky. Let's make sure the header is sticky. Position sticky. And I think we need to make sure that our body has position relative. Also, just for the heck of it, we'll say width 100%, top 0, left 0. And then let's do a box shadow. And for the box shadow, we don't need anything on the x-axis. We want 1 pixel on the y-axis, 1 pixel blur, 1 pixel spread. And then RGBA, it'll be 0, 0, 0. And we'll do 10% alpha transparency. There we go. And we also need to make sure that we have a background color. So we'll do background color is going to be white. There we go. All right, let's see what's happening in the chat. No one is here. No one is also one of our mods. We love no one. Just wanted to share, I landed a temporary remote job last week. That is awesome. And Go Elmo Go says, hopefully they like you so much they want you to be full-time. Wishing you the best of luck. Wow. If you're comfortable, I would love to know more about it. Like, what exactly are they going to have you do? Is it considered a junior developer job? If you are able to broadly tell us what you're going to be working on, I would love to know. If you're not able to, or you signed an NDA, I totally understand also. That is amazing. I am so happy for you. I want you guys to be working. Yes, I want you working and I want you earning money. That's what I want you doing. So But congratulations. We also need you. We need you to have things on your resume. So that is awesome. All right. Well, here's where we're at. This looks relatively centered to me. This doesn't look too bad. So let's just try to get our grid sort of roughly into shape here. I would be perfectly happy if we could just get roughly the CSS done on the rest of this page. And then on Wednesday and Thursday this week, on Wednesday, we'll dive into the mobile header. I think this actually looks pretty good. Like, if visually it doesn't look too bad, but I think it's going to look, we'll have a better sense of it once we actually see this grid in place. So, let's see here. So let's do a wrap. I feel like, does this even say what it is? So this is, I think this is roughly 1200 pixels, so let's just call it 1200 pixels. We can go ahead and put in a basic wrap, and we'll just say max width 75 rems. How did I do this? I feel like I did this different. How did I do this wrap? So I did, yeah, I guess I didn't do, I feel like I did something different. All right, I'm not going to worry about it. So we'll do max width 75 rems, margin 0, auto, and then we'll just do padding 0, 1 rem on the left and right. Well, wait a second though. This is annoying me. Yeah, I guess if I have padding on the left and right, we would actually want this to be 77. All right, I'm not going to worry about the header. Here is our main. We already have a wrap. Whoops. There you go. You can see the wrap there. So let's go ahead and do a class for section. And just something to normalize the padding. So I don't need padding on the left and right. I think we just need to do something like, normally I do about 40 or 50. I think 16 times 4 is 64. 16 times 3 is 48. Let's do 3 rems on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. Let's make sure that our section well, let's just start a new section for the gallery. I'm trying so hard to use global styles as best I can. But it's not everything needs to be a global style. Sometimes you just need to write a style for a specific thing, and that is perfectly fine. So we have an ID of gallery, a section, and then let's add another class here. We'll see gallery, section. I don't want to duplicate an ID and a class. Gallery section. This is the gallery section H2. Text align center. And then let's make sure that this has some margin on the bottom. A little more. We'll do 3 to match what's happening on top. Perfect. And then our grid is going to be the gallery section wrap. Gallery section wrap. I'm not going to make the Flexbox, I'm going to use grid, but I'm not going to make the gallery grid global to wrap. So we'll say display grid. Grid template columns, repeat 4. And then we'll give this a gap of what? 2 rems? And Emilio is here. Welcome, Emilio, also one of the mods. Welcome. We're so happy to see you. I hope you had a good holiday. So next, let's make sure that we have an aspect ratio of 16:9. This is where our thumbnails are going to live. So this is going to be the gallery section figure. So we already took out the margin. I think we just want width of 100%, height 100%, aspect ratio 16:9. Gallery section image is going to be width 100%. Oh, this needs to be auto. And then this needs to be height 100%. And then object fit is going to be cover. There we go. And then I think we want to do text align center. So the gallery section article will be text align center. And then I think we just need a little bit of space beneath that image. So here's the H3. We can either, let's see what's going on here. So we took the margin off of all of our headings. Paragraphs by default still have margin. That's why we have space here in between these two. So we can either add margin back on top of the H3, or we can just put a little margin on the figure to push it down. And I think I'm going to do that on the figure. So we'll just go ahead and say margin 1 rem right there. There we go. And that's about that. That is about that. Let's go ahead and add a wrap to this next section. So this is the section dark. So let's put a wrap around this. So we'll say div.wrap. And then So here's the wrap. Let's actually take the H3 out of the wrap, which is what we did for this section right above it. And then let's do this. Need something a little more specific. So section dark section, background color. What did we decide? We were going to do, I think, light gray. Let's try light gray. Yeah, I think that looks okay. And then, oh, we lost our tabbing. So let's fix that. Tab size right here. So I think we changed this to 1. Yeah, that works. And then let's make sure that our dark section title, the dark section H3, dark section H3 is text align center. Just like that. Let's also make sure that it's got some margin on the bottom. We'll do 3 rems. Just to give it enough space. There we go. Look at that. It's coming together. This isn't too bad. This isn't too bad right here. I feel like in my head this is supposed to be 66%. $63 right in there. 62. 62.5. How well does that hold up? Holds up pretty well. This holds up to about 1150. I mean, I'm very happy with that. 1150. It's not perfect. I mean, I'm good with that because I was not sure how I was going to get that to work out. Let's switch that to 62.5, and then our media query for the mobile navigation is going to be 1150. That's a little bigger than what we normally do. Usually I go for that 1024, which is that OG iPad landscape. I don't think that's what it is anymore on an iPad, but that's what it used to be back in the day. And I still kind of stick with that. But I think 1150 is fine. There are just too many devices nowadays to keep track of. Yeah. So you let the, don't get too wrapped up in hard and fast rules when it comes to breakpoints. Let the design tell you what the breakpoint is supposed to be. Unless you're in a situation at an agency where they are very specific about what they want the breakpoints to be, then yes, you need to pay attention to those numbers. But responsive design is about implementing a design and letting the design show you what those breakpoints need to be. It's not supposed to be about hard and fast rules and numbers. It's really not. So, And no one says that the new job is kind of a mix of a job and freelancing, fixing responsiveness in React and Tailwind for now, more tasks later. My client is a South Korean dev with tons of projects, so he hired me for support. This is what I said. What have I always said? That your initial jobs as a developer are going to be, you're not going to be, when you're first starting out as a developer, you are not going to be handed, it is unlikely that you're going to be given shiny new builds. You're not just going to be handed new builds. You're going to be working on the backlog, the tasks, the things that people are having trouble getting to, things that sit in the backlog for 12 to 18 months, maybe even a couple of years. It's important, it needs to get done, but they just don't have time to get to it. That is the stuff that new devs are often going to be working on. And even though it's React and Tailwind, I still believe very strongly that a foundation in vanilla CSS is going to help you. I really, really, really believe that. So congratulations. I'm very excited for you, and I hope that you report back to us and let us know how it's going. Let me know if you have questions. If you run into a situation you're like, I'm not sure how to deal with this, I would love to help. Let me know. Let me know if you have questions. I'm here for you. I want to support you, and I'm very excited for you. So, oh, Emilio says that yes, he had a good holiday. It took a break from all internet for a while to feel refreshed and ready for 2026. Same, Emilio. I don't think you might not have been here earlier. I took almost most of December off, so I was still kind of doing streaming on the weekend, but I stepped away from pretty much anything YouTube or dev related for a month, and I just took care of personal business here at home. And I am so glad that I did that because I too feel refreshed. So I'm glad to see that you're back and ready to get back at it. Rahul from Nepal is here. Hello, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Rahul is also a mod. I am sort of turning into one of those chats that's all mod. You know what though? That's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind. The channel is going to grow in 2026. I did sort of hope that things would be a little further along for 2025, but I have no complaints, no issues, none whatsoever. I think we started 2025 with less than 300 subscribers. I don't even think I had 300 subscribers on January 1st, 2025. Now we're ending on 2025 on 1600. I'm good with that. So I think that we will continue to grow in 2026. I think we'll get the watch time we need to get monetized, and I think 2026 is going to be a great year. Yes, 2026 is the year for growth. We got this. There's nothing to be. I'm pleased with everything that we got done in 2025. It takes time. It takes as long as it takes. So. And Rahul says, no one is living my dream working for a foreign company. I've only worked for them on freelance basis, but not as a full-time. Yeah, stick with it, folks. It's a numbers game. I know it's hard. I really think applying for jobs is a numbers game. I really do. So, yeah, I'm very happy for no one. And I think, though, that it's also worth mentioning that Malik, Gogo Elmo, is in the running for an internship. So he has been through, Malik, you said you were an open book, and I think we've talked about this before, but you are right now in going through the interview process for an internship for a dev position. So I think Malik is going to be the next one to hit it here with a good position, a good internship. So that's what we want. I want everybody working and earning, putting your skills to work, adding value, earning an honest, earning the value that you put into the organization. That's what I want you. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for all of us. So, okay, this is looking good. This is looking good. This looks fine to me too. This looks exactly how I want it to. We're definitely going to have more sections. I need to Yeah, I've got stuff to do before Wednesday. This gives me good time. I have a list of things that I need to do to write content, make choices, decide what we're going to actually communicate in terms of markup and CSS and things like that. So, okay, let's get our footer. Let's get our footer figured out here. And I suppose we could just put some. Let's just go ahead and put in a paragraph. Say lorem. Just to make sure this looks okay. This is pretty wide. I don't think we want it to be this wide. We may want the wrap for the it's not a best practice to have people read across 12 columns. So should we make this narrower, or we could make the text bigger? We could do that too. What do we think? Oh, and I need to get proper photos in here. I'm on a big monitor, so this would be kind of like traditional laptop. I think we should make this a little narrower. So let's adjust the wrap just for these sections. So we'll say max width. So maybe instead of 77, we could do 52. 52 rems. I like that better. But also maybe we could make our paragraph text a little bit bigger regardless. So let's do that. Yeah, I like that. I also feel like we could increase the line height. Right now, what did I put for line height on the body? I usually do 1.65. Let's increase our line height to 1.85. I don't think we need to do 2. Oh, that's pretty good. And let's take off, there's margin here. I can tell that there's margin here. So let's adjust our margin on the paragraphs just inside these dark sections. And I think there's going to be, a dark section and a light section. And there will be paragraphs inside each. So let's make these let's do this. We'll call these content sections. And then let's do a dark section and a light section. So we're alternating. So we would do a dark section H3 and a light section H3. And then we could do a dark section wrap and a light section wrap. Now we have those classes ready to go, and then we can do a dark section paragraph and a light section paragraph. So really we're just adjusting the margin to be 0, 0, and I'm going to say 2 rems. And then let's add a couple of paragraphs to make sure this looks okay. Yeah, that looks good. Nice and readable. I like it. Did we not remove the margin from the top here? So that's 3 rems of padding on top. That's 3 rems of padding on the bottom. Why does it look like so much more? So I'm going to take that down to 2. Take that down to 2 rems. So now we have some global styles for our dark and light sections, because I do want to alternate between a white background and this kind of grayish background, because we're going to have an HTML section, a CSS section, and a JavaScript section. And then we'll have the footer. So let's do that next. And Rahul is asking, how was Christmas? It was great. We had a great time. Just hung out with my family, my parents, my sister, my niece and my nephew. Lots and lots of food. My dad and I went to Costco like 3 times in 10 days. It was great. It was really fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then Malik is saying he's waiting for his second or final interview invitation. So, and that the holidays slowed down the process, so probably in January you will hear back. I hope so. Good. My vote is text bigger. And Rahul says he's been busy with office work, but I will also start slowly building some personal projects to share on this channel. I would love to see your work, Rahul. So, because my impression, just from how you communicate in the chat, is that you've got quite a bit of experience. So I would love to see some of your work. So, yeah, agreed. Agreed. We're doing great. Let's get this footer whipped into shape. And then we have an excellent start for Wednesday. So Rahul and Emilio, if you weren't here earlier, or no one, if you weren't here earlier, I decided that I'm going to stream on Wednesday and Thursday this week, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, the normal time, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, so my time. And then from January 3rd through January 9th, we're going to do a 7-day sprint. 7-day sprint. Every day, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, because I need to get the YouTube algorithm warmed back up again and get things kicked off here for the new year. So we should be able to finish this project well within that time and work on the next project. So hopefully I will be ready to tell you what the next project even is sometime this week. So, okay, so let's get our footer. Let's take care of this footer. What is our footer supposed to look like? Pretty basic. Just a nice little tidy row. So let's see. So I think we can just, do we have a wrap? Yep, we'll go ahead and put a wrap on the footer. And then let's just go ahead and flexbox the footer wrap. So we'll say display flex, flex flow, row, no wrap. Justify content, we're going to do space between, align items, center. There we go. And then we do need to adjust our, so I changed the default font size for paragraphs, but I think I'm going to do it specific to the dark and light section. So let's change that. So font size 1.25 rems. And then let's not make this global. Font size 1.25 rems, line height 1.85. We'll just do that for these sections. And then we don't have, there we go. And now that's kind of back to normal. Although, is this supposed to be Montserrat? It is. It is. So let's add that to our stack. The footer. And then we'll probably just have to change the font weight. So we'll just say font weight. I think 500 is pretty good. Is that what I did for the navigation? Font weight 400. Okay, we can do that too. There we go. Nice and tidy. It's a little off because this is pretty wide. Not super worried about that. One moment. Hold, please. Okay. So let's give our footer some padding. The wrap already has padding, so I'm just going to put 2 rems of padding on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. Is that too much or is that okay? And it looks like we have a border there as well. So let's think about this. If we know that we're going to have alternate sections and background colors, it would be HTML dark, CSS light, JavaScript dark, and then the footer. We can still put a border there and see how it looks. Let's try it. Border top 1 pixel solid. I don't think that black is gonna look quite right. Yeah. Let's do, and we have to add padding. So let's just do this slightly darker gray, and then let's make sure that we have some padding on the top of 2 rems. 0 on the left and right, 0 on the bottom. Does that look weird? Maybe maybe we don't need to do that. Can you see it? I'm thinking. Still want this to be true from the bottom. And does that look weird to have that space there? Let's skip the border. I don't think we need the border. We can add the border back in if we need to. Let's take this out. There we go. And then we have our back to top link. And then all of these should be working. I don't think that, do we need a... Okay, let's go ahead and add those to make sure that those are all working. And then let's figure out if we... I have to think about that. So here's our section. Oh, let's just make all the sections, I guess. So there's ID, and then this would be HTML. So we're going to duplicate these sections. CSS, and then that would be JavaScript. And then this would be light section. So here's gallery, which we already have, and then we have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then this links out to Gumroad. That's where I'm going to sell products. Let's make sure that that link opens a new tab. So we want this to be target equals link. Okay, that's working. The other thing that we want to do is we want to make sure, so this is scrolling all the way to the top of the page, which it means it's covering up the title. So we actually want this, we want there to be some space. We want it to be, to scroll, not to take the section all the way to the top of the page, but to leave some space. So the way we do that is, well, usually what you do is you just put a div. So let's do that. So this ID is going to go on the div. And then you can position them with a little CSS to get them to land in the correct spot. Whoops. And then these would also need a class. And we'll just call this scroll point. And so now, oops, we'll come up here and we'll say scroll point, position, relative, and then we're going to say top, I think negative 50 pixels. Let's try that. Yeah, pretty good, pretty close. Pretty close. Ooh, that's perfect. Just like that. Let's see, can we get it exact? So an exact measurement would be, so the header is 89 pixels tall. So probably this would be 89, right? That would be the clearance. Yeah, that's it. Okay, that's not, you don't have to click that anymore, Angela. Perfect. Perfect. Love it. And then let's make sure that this is a link. So if people are scrolling, you know, we have this hashtag appended, which is completely fine, but I like to clear that, and the best way to do that is to just make the logo a link. So when you click the link, you're kind of refreshing the page, right? It's a small thing, it's a detail. So we'll just say that it's the root, right? The root URL. There we are. So let's style that now. Primary logo. The primary logo anchor link. The color is going to be black. And text decoration will just be none. So we can remove that underline. Doesn't need to have and then you're basically refreshing the page. I love it. I love it. That's perfect. And then we also have, if you go down to the bottom here, or if you just get down, then we've got our back to top link, which is essentially the gallery. And then if you want to clear that, you can just click the logo. I love it. We are well on our way. Okay, well, we've got some time. We still have about 20 minutes. What else can we do? Let's go ahead and style our social media. Let's get our color palette defined. How about that? So I like the colors that are kind of already in here, but I need to find a way to get them in here as accent colors. They're not suitable or really accessible for anything else, although we haven't exactly tested them, have we? So let's actually define what this color palette is, and then let's check the accessibility. And I think that that's a perfect way to wrap this up. So where is that? It is, let's find the original repository for responsive video gallery, which is right here. And here's the favicon. Let's We should just color pick this in Adobe. I don't have a color picker. Adobe color. Let's go to create, extract. Look at that. Perfect. That's perfect. That's literally perfect. Okay. So let's just copy these. So that is, what is that? We'll call that purple. And then we've got navy. Good, then I don't have to do this myself. It's always good when you can get it done on stream. And then this is blue. I'll call this light blue. Although if this light blue is accessible, I'm happy to switch it over. We'll check that. And then we've got green. And then we've got orange. And then I'm just curious, what is this? Let's use this as this. Or we could use it as, how does that look if we switch that out? This color gray out. I think it's that's a little dark. I don't like it. But we could swap it out here if we need to use this plain gray. We will use this version. Okay, so now let's do the color contrast checker. Okay, so we know that our dark text is going to be black, which is 222. And then we know what our white is, and we know what our light gray is. So we'll start with text. Well, wait a second. We'll start with, okay, let's just start with testing white text on each of these as a background. So for large text that does work. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that it's, well, but for graphical objects it does work. Okay, fair. Okay, the green passes for almost everything with white text. That's good to know. Not AAA normal text, but it's still AAA. It's still AA for normal text. So let's call the green accessible. How does this look with the dark? So for white text, I'm going to say that the green is a pass. Oh. White text AA. We'll just say white text AA. And then this is, and I'm just, for this, I'm just going to say accent only. Let's check the blue. So for dark text, no. For white text, yes. This surprises me. All right, I'm in the best possible way. So we'll say white text AA. I bet the navy is going to be okay. Yep, the navy's fine for white. It's not going to pass for dark. White text, and this is white text AAA. Test the purple. No for dark. And AA for white text. White text AA. So I would be fine. So I think we need to, so I'm not really planning to use these colors as backgrounds. So let's test this another way, where the background is white. And then let's see how, I'm sure we're going to get the same result, but I just want to see it with my own eyeballs. So that's okay on a white background. Also okay on a white background. So this is also okay on a white background. So what I'm thinking is I'll change the link color to this blue, because we do still pass for normal text AA. We could also do the green for links. That's exactly the same. And then I'm guessing for orange, it's not going to pass. Yeah. And then I don't think this will be that much of a distinction, but let's just double check. So the green on our light gray background, same. Our light blue. Oh, interesting. So the light blue on the light gray background fails. So this would not work for links. This would not be okay. What about navy? The navy is fine. So we could do navy for our links. See how purple looks. Purple is also okay. I think I'm going to go with navy. Yeah, let's go with navy for our links. So I'm going to take this out. Okay, so how do we want to define this? So I think we should say for the light blue and the orange, I think we should say that these are accent only because they're not going to work on even a light gray background. So I think we should just go ahead and say accent only. And then the purple, the navy, and the green, these would actually be dark, dark, or well, does it matter? I think all that matters is that it's really normal text. That's what the distinction is. So normal text double A, normal text triple A, normal text double A on any of the backgrounds. On a white or light gray background. On white or light gray background. That works. I'm fine with that. So we can use purple, navy, and green as headings on the white or the light gray background. Orange and light blue can only be accents. And I do want to find a way to use the entire color palette as an accent. And then navy as our link color. So I'm good with that. I like that. And then I'm probably going to go ahead and use this favicon also. We'll do that before next week. So. And then Rahul is good. I'm glad. The skull, 7-day sprint. Yes, deadly. I know. Easier said than done, right? Yeah, I can tell you the Ardian Trees is here. Welcome, Ardian Trees. This is what I like to use to check color contrast. Oh, Rahul put it in. Okay, Angela. Keep reading. So, this works. I like this. This all works. I'll close this out. And I'm going to take a screenshot of this just so I have it. Nice. And I think this is pretty good for today. Yeah, we definitely need to, we'll figure out what we're doing with this heading. And maybe I will think of a better way to deal with this. Let's do this. You can tell it's a little off kilter. It's just not going to be exact because I need the navigation and I need the social media icons to be in the same container because it's just going to make my life so much easier if for the mobile, for the drawer, without having to duplicate this set of icons. But this is a decent layout. This is a decent amount of work here. Oh, how come our backgrounds aren't working? Oh, I know why they're not working. I didn't actually define what a light background is. Content sections. There we go. And then this scrolls in its container if it needs to. We could also reduce this space on the left if we need to. But yeah, this is great. All right, well, I definitely have work to do before Wednesday. Definitely have work to do before Wednesday. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. Wow, we had a good crowd today. Holy cow. Views have been down the last few months. I mean, I think it's across YouTube, but after having such a spectacular fall where I was just getting hundreds of views per video, which I've never even gotten more than 1,000 views on a live stream, and that's fine. But this fall, things had ramped up so quickly, and I was getting a lot of views on the live streams and on the replays. And then once November hit, it was just like it was a huge dip, a huge tank. And I don't know if it was me. My impression is that views were down across YouTube. I've seen a lot of other creators talking about that, which is maybe just normal for back to school and fall and winter and the holidays. Fine, it is what it is. I have nothing to compare it to. So it's exciting to see some good views again on a live stream. This is what makes me really, really excited about doing a 7-day sprint. I think that could really help warm up the algorithm. And speaking of which, first of all, if you're new here, welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I've been streaming here on the weekends for almost a year and a half. We do all vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I have nothing against frameworks and libraries. My personal preference is to do vanilla because you don't need Node, you don't need a package manager, you don't need dependencies. We're just writing the things that the browser renders natively, which is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I also personally just really, really enjoy it. I like doing those things, and it makes the entire process simple. I really want to encourage more front-end developers to not give up on frameworks and libraries, but to just refresh themselves on the basics. If, of course, that's only if you have a desire to do that. I'm not here to say that everybody should do it. I don't want to force anybody. I just think that your life might be a little bit easier if you are remembering some of the basics. That's all I'm saying. If you have a desire to get better at vanilla CSS in particular, I would encourage you to just do 1 or 2 personal projects using vanilla CSS and see how it goes. See if you start to develop a deeper understanding of inheritance and cascading. See if you get better with specificity and your classes and naming your classes. I've been a Sass user for over a decade. I've been a front-end developer for a little over 12 years, Sass user from pretty much the beginning. And when I decided this past summer that I was going to do all vanilla CSS, within a few weeks, it dramatically changed how I write CSS because my nesting, my specificity, it was out of control. I was not writing CSS as well as I could have been. And in the 6 months that I've been doing all vanilla, it's dramatically changed how I work. And now, because I do streaming on the weekend and I'm doing about a project a month, plus I have several other personal projects that I don't stream, I'm iterating very, very quickly through my CSS process, right? So I'm starting new projects constantly, and I'm able to really iterate through and figure out what does and doesn't work in terms of like what can be a global style, what can be more specific. It's helping me really wrap my head around how I name things, like how I'm using class names. So it's just been wildly beneficial for me. So if you have, like I said, if you have a desire to be better at it, I suggest that you just practice it on a few personal projects and see how it goes. I think you'll be surprised at how quickly you really start to develop a deeper understanding. So Monique says, good session. Everyone have a good and productive week ahead. Malik also says, good work. Thank you, Malik. We appreciate that. Oh boy, I love this one. Pranav says, give that card size an increase and give rounded property to image so it looks good. So Pranav doesn't know that I detest rounded corners. I do not like images with rounded corners. I just don't like it. Also, I'm on a big monitor. I'm on a 27-inch monitor. That's why these look so small. This is a traditional 12-column layout. This is 1200 pixels wide. It looks very, very small because I'm on a small monitor. So I think this is what this would, whoops. We're in a snowstorm right now, so there's a plow outside honking. So I think this is what this would look like on more of a traditional laptop size. So I'm not inclined to make this bigger, although I mean, I'm not against it. It just looks really, really small because of the size of my monitor. I have a 27-inch monitor. So we could increase the wrap. I'm open to that. For this, we definitely need to keep this narrow because it's not accessible to ask people to read 1 rem font size across 12 columns. So we increased the font size and we made this narrower for readability and accessibility. And Artie and Tree says, I saw a column that was very nice. That was very nice to look at. So I hope maybe you're complimenting my column. If you meant something different, let me know, Artie and Trees. No one says, I think the YouTube algo is really complex and random. I would agree with that. I would agree that it's complex and random. I used to spend a lot of time poring over analytics. It's very stressful. And here's what I've decided the best approach to YouTube is: show up, do good work, be authentic and sincere. And after that, it's in God's hands, really. You have to just surrender sometimes to the fact that we don't always understand who the algorithm chooses. I also think that I don't fit neatly into a development box on YouTube, right? Because I'm not doing courses. I'm not doing any frameworks or libraries. I'm very project-based. A lot of the videos on my channel are many hours long, right? That's not viral content. I know that's not viral content, but I do think it's good content. I think I'm building a nice little library of educational material. I'm personally really proud of the work that I'm doing. And if I keep showing up, eventually the YouTube algorithm is going to figure out what to do with me because I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. It's going to figure out what to do with me eventually. So Rehan Anwar is here. Hello, welcome. Oh, I was saying before, if you're new here, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up. That helps us get this pushed out to more people who might be interested in front-end development. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, I would love to have you. Please hit the subscribe button. The channel is growing nicely. Not super fast, but we are growing. And I would love to have you. I'm here every weekend. And no, stop. It's a running joke here if you're new. Pranav is acknowledging my comment. So yeah, listen, also I am completely open to adjusting the sizes of things, especially once we get some of the mobile get some of the mobile styles implemented, which we're definitely going to do this week. And then of course, once we get our JavaScript implemented and we build our overlay and our modal, which I think we should be able to do this week, we'll get a better sense for how these should look. But I'm on a big monitor, that's why it looks so small. So yeah, Rahul, round corners in Angela's CSS must be a bug. Yeah. Artie and Tree says, I think rounded corners are great for people recognition. For content, it's better to use rectangle, just my opinion. Yeah, I'm not opposed to rounded corners like on icons. You'll see me when we style the social media navs here up in the corner. I often do a hover with a background and I'll put like a 5 pixel border radius on that. I think that that looks really nice. Yeah, so we'll see. I personally just don't love rounded corners on images. It's just me. It's just my own aesthetic. So, but I love the I think the two questions that I get asked the most are, can you put rounded corners on the images, and why aren't you using Tailwind? I think if I were to tally it up, those would be the two most common questions. Whoops, sorry, hit the wrong button. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Come back on Wednesday and Thursday this week. We're going to do a New Year's Eve and a New Year's Day stream. I don't have anything special planned, like no special content planned. We're just going to go ahead and continue working on the responsive video gallery. And then on January 3rd, we're going to start a 7-day sprint. We're going to have some deployment in there. We're going to be writing a ton of vanilla JavaScript, which I'm going to be doing live during the streams. Count on the fact that I will be leaning into GitHub Copilot to help me with some of that. But yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. Oh, and Rehan is saying, can you give me a quick roadmap for front end? I've learned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. ChatGPT is saying a lot of things to learn, so I thought it's better to ask a real developer. Yes, Rehan, I'm going to tell you what I think in just a moment here. And Artie and Tree says, thank you. Even though I came late, I really enjoyed watching it. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, Rahul turned us on to roadmap.sh. Hang on. I can pull that up here. I'm gonna tell you my personal opinion. I spelled that wrong. Roadmap.sh. I'm going to tell you my personal opinion on this, which is not that this is wrong. I personally find this wildly intimidating, and I am an experienced developer. So take a look at this, see what you think. I am always going to promote an organic approach to front-end development or any type of development. I am always going to ask people to make their learning journey more project-based. And here's why. I want you to come up with an idea and build it, because you're going to encounter so many things that you didn't even know you needed to solve. So think about it like this. You're saying here that you've learned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And so what's interesting about this statement is that I promise you that even though you've taken courses to learn those things, there's no way you could really, learning the syntax and the structure does not equal problem solving. And the way that you solve problems is by doing real projects. So the best way to learn, if ChatGPT is saying, well, you should also understand how to implement an API, go out and find a free API and do a promise, right? A JavaScript promise, pull in that data, learn how to massage the data. I'm just going to use APIs as an example. So at my last job at the University of St. Thomas, we leveraged Salesforce. Like that was our big CRM. We had tons of courses and programs and all these things. All that data was in Salesforce. And then we had a dedicated team that just took that data and built out APIs. And then my job as the front-end developer for the front-facing university websites is like, how do we make that data easily accessible to our users, our students, parents, faculty, staff, things like that. So I just spent like hours of my life building filters. Like, here's this data. How can people filter it to get to like whittle down to the information that they really need? And all of that came from Salesforce APIs. And it could be courses, it could be programs, it could be information about financial aid, it could be information about scholarships, just all sorts of information. And what I learned from that is that API work is not about doing a promise to pull in an API. It's about learning how to massage data. It's about learning how to organize data in a way that's easily accessible for the end user. So I would spend hours of my life building view components and building filters, but I was constantly having to massage the data into categories and groups and filterable objects. So that's the real work in APIs, not how to do a promise, but how to massage the data. And that's only something that you can figure out how to do by working on projects. And our backend developers were great, because if they were building a fresh new API for a fresh new project, they would come to me and they would be like, how do you need this to look? How do you want this to look so it's easiest for you to implement? And that was amazing. I loved that. But we also had lots of legacy APIs, or not even legacy APIs, but just APIs that were already built and established, where they had no time set aside, no time in their sprint set aside to go and change the APIs for whatever new thing I needed to build. And so then I had on my end, I had to sit down with JavaScript and figure out how I was going to massage that data to get the output that I needed. You know what I mean? That is just only something that you can learn how to do by being handed a project and being handed a set of requirements. That's why when I look at roadmap.sh and front end, it tells you all these things that you need to do. But going and taking a course on Vue and Jest and whatever these other things are doesn't tell you how to implement those things or solve problems. You don't know how to solve a problem until you're actually working on a project and you have a problem. Do you see what I mean? So maybe a better prompt for ChatGPT isn't what is a roadmap to front-end development. Maybe the prompt is, can you tell me a problem that I should solve in order to learn XYZ? Does that make sense? Yeah, it is intimidating. I mean, when you look at this, it's like, okay, I need to learn these things. And also, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You actually don't need to learn all these things to be a front-end developer. I don't know how to learn. I knew how to do all these things. I've never used React. I've never even heard of some of these things. I have no idea what some of these things are. Not every front-end developer does all of these things. I was a front-end developer, but I was very UI focused, but I still did a ton of back-end stuff. So projects, you need to do projects. You need to encounter problems and solve those problems. And every front-end developer does not know how to do every single thing. Front-end developers are good problem solvers. To me, that's the whole point of it. And Artie Tree says HTML and CSS are still fun until you learned JavaScript. It took me a long time to learn JavaScript. You and me both. And yeah, JavaScript is a weird language. I personally love it. I really, really do. But if you've watched my channel for any length of time, I think it is very clear what my strength is. It's HTML, CSS, accessibility, and SEO. JavaScript is taking me years. It's taking me years to get good at it. And of course, I'm getting out of it what I put into it, which is very little. So yeah, if you don't have ideas for projects, there's a whole GitHub dedicated to that. Project-based learning might be worth a look. I also think that that would be an excellent prompt for ChatGPT. Have a conversation with ChatGPT about project-based learning, and ask it if it can give you a project or a set of requirements. That's kind of the key, in my opinion. Because I think as front-end, or I guess my experience as a front-end developer was that I was given a set of requirements. I was told what they needed and what the requirements were. So And no one says, I still have to look up some CSS style documentation every day. Yeah, I mean, I do too. There's stuff that I forget all the time where I'm just like, oh, I'm not sure how to do that. So, well, you're welcome. I hope that was helpful. So, I love talking about this stuff. So, those questions never get old. I love it. So, okay, everybody. Well, have a great rest of your day. Hit that like button, hit that thumbs up for me. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be back on Wednesday this week, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Come hang out with me on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. We'll get the 2026 kicked off in the right way. Continue to work on our project. And yeah, have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and I will see you in my next one. Bye-bye.